run by the leadership, not by the project management. So now the leadership I find has accelerated it. They are focusing on it, and it's not one of those things left to people to do the project management. You need at all levels a kind of funding, a kind of. Therefore, I brought in all those strategies: first offset strategy, second offset strategy, third offset strategy. These were the derivatives of national, ambitions, aspirations, and dreams. And accordingly, they were funded and they were created, and resources are provided there. Now, what speed I see, the acceleration I see, and I see the government is into the play. I'm telling you, it's not far. In my guess, it may take 3 to 4 years or 5 years at best. That's my guess. So you're 5 years away from that point where you can proudly say, I have my own aero engine of 90 kilonewtons. So we need to build relationships. Somebody will say 7 years. I'll bet for 5 years. I know that if you focus on it, you can really do it. And we are capable of doing it. We have the ecosystem also now. We have ecosystem now.
Sir, this takes me back to that one sentence that you made, and I clearly remember it. It applies so very well to the current context, which is that these kind of conversations, this kind of work cannot be discussed in private boardrooms, that this needs a national approach. We need to take it forward under a national mission. Thank you so much, sir, for breaking down that all-important story and joining us on the Breakfast Club.
Thank you. Thank you.
I loved the timeline he gave, though. That was a 5 years to 7 years timeline. Let's go over to Vice Admiral Raman Puri. He's the retired chief of the Integrated Defence Staff. He's seen India's capability building challenges up close. Let's go over to him now to understand more. Sir, good morning. Thank you for joining us here on the show. Lovely to have you. Sir, a 5 to 7 year timeline was what our other guests just predicted. We want to hear your take first on that. And then we want you to actually take us back a little, because India's journey with the homegrown fighter, you can actually take us back to the Kaveri program. Tell us how it's come along. We want to know a little bit about what our tryst has been with it in the past.
I think then before I answer your first question, I'll try and talk about the background first. Because it's important to understand the background of what has happened so that we don't do what we did earlier. In my own view, we committed some, Himalayan blunders in our views on how to develop an engine. And what does it take to develop? I'll come to all that. Well, the necessity of doing it, you will understand. Today, if I want to say, let me say what we will need in the next 15 years or so. Some capability we need, I think, earlier, some we will need a little later. So what are the aircraft under our plan? One, we have got the Tejas Mark 1, Mark 2. These aircraft require roughly a 90 kilonewton engine, 85 to 90 kilonewton. Okay. Next will be Tejas Mark, the LCA Mark 2, and the tech-based aircraft for the Navy, and then you have AMCA, right? Now, the LCA Mark 2 and the tech-based aircraft for the Navy will require roughly a 98 kilonewton engine. That is what the GE4, the whole project has been built around GE414. Mark 1 has been built around GE404. For AMCA, the program, when I was there, maybe 15, 20 years ago, at that time also the program was AMCA, roughly about, AMCA Mark 1 would have roughly about 6 quadrants. I'll say the right numbers. But that would also work on the GE414 engine, which is 98 kilonewtons. Now then we come to the next, is the AMCA Mark II, which is the next generation engines which we want to look at, and that is a 124 kilonewton. Now all these engines, you can't say that I've developed a 124 kilonewton engine, so I'm happy with 90 and 98, because the fan sizes are different, the inducts are different. So engines really match the aircraft. The issue with Kaveri has been that we started the development sometimes in the maybe sometimes in the 80s. I do not know exactly when we started. Late 80s, early 90s. That's the time when we started to go on the Kaveri project. Before that, there was a GTX and other smaller engines being developed by GTRE to understand the technology. What we have to understand is we were starting from what I would call a technology readiness level close to 1. To get an engine into service, you have to be at technology level at least 7 to 8. Now, that is the journey one has to go through with. And Atmanirbharta, if we talk about Atmanirbharta, the nation has to understand that all these transfers of technologies and all that will give you a product at technology readiness level 8, but will not tell you what happens from 1 to 7, where the entire know-how lies. Even if you do a TO, for example, we are talking about GE414 today. The Americans will give us, Americans give us, say, 80% of the technology. But what will they not give? In my view, they will never give you the FADEX technology. I mean, that is the fuel control system technology. They will not give you the oil system technology. They will probably not even give you the single crystal blade technologies. There are many such technologies which are critical to an engine, which you will have to, on which you will remain dependent on them, because there are softwares inside which you can't, even if somebody gives me a source code to that software, I can do very little about it, because there are algorithms inside, very difficult to decipher, and these are all maybe million line softwares. So we have to be, so I'm going to talk from the point of view of getting to be Atmanirbharta, because in the ultimate end, we have seen the story with GE404. We have signed the contract. It's the Biden government also kept delaying, 2 years delay were there. Now the Trump government has come. I am told that we're going to start the supplies of these engines. But I mean, I hope for the best. I mean, I do hope that we will get GE404 and the GE414. We are stuck to these two engines from abroad for these two programs till we develop our own engine in this category. We'll have to have this. And this is where I want to go to the background. It was sometimes in, I think, 2007, 2000. I retired in 2006, but thereafter I joined the board of HAL as a non-executive member. So I know fairly well as to what happened in that time period. I was also Bharat Electronics. As what was happening, and after that also I know fairly well what was happening. Sometimes in, I think, 2006 or 2007, a high-powered committee headed by the Air Force was appointed, primarily because the Kaveri engine, it had done about, the Kaveri engine had gone for high-altitude tests to Russia. There, what they found was that the core of the Kaveri, which was supposed to develop about 50 kilonewton, was developing 46, 47. Just a little bit of fine tuning, we were sure that it will come to the right numbers.
Okay.
But the total engine, in which you have the reheat thrust, that I mean, there is the engines are, there is a core and then there's a high power. There's the low power and the high power section where there is reheat takes place, that you bypass some gas and then that is burnt, and then the temperatures, there the metallurgy comes into place. Much higher temperatures are there in that core, in the reheat section. So, and that, whereas we should have developed, I mean, the engine was designed to develop about 72 kilonewtons. At that point in time, it was developing about 62 kilonewtons or so. After that, it was stalling, right? So we must understand that there were two great difficulties with GTRE in coming to this stage. We did not have a high altitude test facility. We did not have a hack aircraft. Hack aircraft is where you take the aircraft, you put that, it has 4 engines, you substitute one of your engines in that, and then you see how it is performing in the air. We didn't have these facilities. Every time the engine was developed, it had to go to Russia for trials. Normally, nothing will happen in the very first trial. So even there were minor issues that were coming up. They had to bring the engine back here, retest it, and then put it back. So anyway, the point is that when this engine was developing this power, this high power committee came into being. They looked into the whole thing. It was headed by a very senior Air Force officer. They looked into this and came to the conclusion that for the LCA, the only option is to go to GE 404. There is no other option available. Here there was a difference
Admiral,
between...
you've pointed out a couple of challenges, and while you go ahead, not to disrupt your thought process, but we also want you to explain a little bit about these technical terms to just simplify it for our viewers, because so many times when we have these conversations, sir, we talk about exotic alloys, we talk about high temperature materials, microscopic tolerances. What are these and where are we struggling exactly?
No, I just tell you, the struggle is basically in the decision-making cycle that has taken place. You have already developed a 62 kilonewton engine. You had all the material technologies that you required. I mean, there's no point going into all the minor details.
Yeah.
We had all the technologies required to develop up to an 80 kilonewton engines even at that time. Okay? There were difficulties that came, that probably some in the design phase. There are many issues. There is a bypass ratio between the core for the reheat to take place to bypass a certain amount of gas into the reheat portion. Now, I do not know what happened, but it's possible that the ratio that we took was not correct. I mean, this happens in any design, it will take place. I mean, there will have to be iterations that you go along with. Nothing happens in the first few trials. But here, somehow, the moment something goes wrong, if an aircraft, for example, we were in that, we were developing an AEW&C. Moment one crash took place, we stopped the program.
Rear Admiral,
So
we just
here
have the
you had
one
difficult-
last minute left, and one humble request, because we want you to talk about the current picture as well. Given the problems you've already spoken of in the past.
It's very, very important to understand background, to understand the current picture.
Yeah.
And why I will go to the current picture, I'll tell you. Now, with this meeting, 404 is the only way DRDO felt program. They had done some due diligence with Safran already. They understood what was the design error they had made, and they wanted to continue with this program. It would have taken 3-4, maybe 4 years at that time. I'm talking about 2008, 2009, that time frame. And as an alternate, they felt that the EJ 200 engine of the Eurofighter was a better option, because there are two things in its favor. It was, you didn't have to modify the airframe as was designed to fit this engine into a LCA Mark 1. But with GE 404, there was a redesign effort also required. I mean, the entire aft section had to be redesigned for putting.
Rear Admiral,
The-
unfortunately, we've run out of time, and we've not actually been able to talk so much about the present story, but we are so grateful.
I'll come down to that.
Rear Admiral, we do need to head into a break, but we are so grateful that you joined us and that you walked us through.
And we'll
the
possibly
history of this
reconnect with
program.
you, sir. It's a story we want to talk about and really deep dive into it,
Yeah,
talk
it's
about all these
so
aspects.
fascinating.
Thank you so much, sir, though, for joining us this morning. We head into a very short break, but on the other side comes a very interesting voice. The B man of India, Devendra Jani, talks about his story and how he's taking this entire movement forward. We'll be right back.
18 network. India's largest news network.
To the other big story this hour, Prime Minister has arrived for the BJP Parliamentary Party meet, and this is the agenda for the meeting today is finalizing the candidate for the vice presidential elections that are slated, if elections happen, for the 9th of September. So the NDA is likely to finalize its candidates soon, but before that, the Bharatiya Janata Party has to appoint or come up with a nominee, and in that sense, the Prime Minister of India has reached. You can see JP Nadda, the BJP president, also there welcoming him. This meeting will have Home Minister Amit Shah. It will also have the other top leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and they'll sit together to decide who BJP's nominee for the upcoming vice presidential elections, if elections happen, that is, or will there be a consensus candidate? Will BJP come up with a candidate which will be acceptable to the opposition as well? In that case, elections may not be needed, but otherwise, who will be the Bharatiya Janata Party and NDA's face for the vice presidential elections? That's what will be decided, and those are the visuals that we have just got. Arun Dhanta is tracking the story. So, Arun, who all present in this meeting?
Well, see, Arunima, all parliamentary board members are present in this meeting, which includes BJP Chief JP Nadda, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah, Sudha Yadav, Satyanarayan Jatia, Union Minister Sarvananda Sonowal. All these 11 members are going to participate in this parliamentary board's meeting, and Prime Minister Modi has also, of course, arrived at the party headquarters. Remember, parliamentary board is the highest decision-making body of Bharatiya Janata Party, and therefore we are given to understand that this all crucial meeting is about the finalization of the name of the vice presidential candidate of the NDA. Of course, we've seen earlier, Arunima, that there was an important meeting of NDA's top leaders, which happened in fact, last week in the parliament. That was also about vice presidential candidate, in which the authority of choosing that candidate was given to JP Nadda and Prime Minister Modi. So in that regard, perhaps we will be seeing that all these members will be sitting and discussing that who's going to be the vice presidential candidate. And then, of course, you will see it will be it will be told to the NDA allies, the likes of JDU and TDP. And we are also being told by our sources that there could be a joint press briefing of the NDA leadership about the announcement of this. And in fact, Prime Minister Modi, when he arrived at party headquarters, he in fact spoke to the journalists here also, where he asked the journalist about how did they celebrate their Janmashtami, and also said, Jai Shri Ram. So Prime Minister Modi, of course, has come here at the party headquarters. We will, of course, not be expecting anything to come out today, but of course the decision will be taken, and probably in a joint press conference, then you will see that name will be announced, because on 21st we're given to understand that all the NDA leaders, including Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Ministers, will be in Delhi alongside with that candidate when they will have nominee or filing that nomination here in Delhi for the all crucial vice presidential election.
Right, but any speculations, Arun, about who the possible contenders are?
Well, see, there are various names which are doing the rounds, but it is very difficult. In fact, the name of the LG of Jammu Kashmir, Manoj Sinha, is also there. Thawarchand Gehlot's name is also there. There are various names which are doing the rounds, but it is very difficult to actually find out what is going to be the final pick of the NDA. Of course, one thing is clear, that NDA amongst themselves have decided, and in fact given that full license or authority to the Prime Minister and JP Nadda to choose or pick the candidates. So there will not be, of course, any problem in the NDA in that regard, and you will have that show of strength of the NDA when everybody will be present, when that candidate will, of course, be filing nomination for the vice presidential election, which is of course on 21st of this month. So you will, of course, see perhaps either tomorrow or today, that announcement coming out from the NDA's leadership.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see if an election is necessitated or if the opposition and the treasury come to a consensus about who the next Vice President of India will be. We'll keep an eye on that story. Arun, thank you so much. Moving.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To the other big story this hour, Prime Minister has arrived.
Welcome back. Well, when we think of bees, most of us either think of honey or the bee sting, but there is so much more to them. They're actually the invisible workforce that keeps our food chain alive, pollinating crops, also sustaining biodiversity. And at a time when the world is losing pollinators at an alarming pace, our person of interest this morning has dedicated his entire life to changing that story.
Devendra Jani, often called the Bee Man of India, walked away from a successful career in IT to start Be the Lead, a movement that brings farmers, children and city dwellers close to these tiny but powerful creatures. So let's get straight into it. Let's go over to him to understand more. Good morning, Devendra. So lovely to have you. How are you? Join us and just tell us a little bit more about your entire practice. Also, we see that you are wearing a hat of some kind. Tell us a little bit about it.
Good morning, good morning. This is a bee whale. Ideally, different professions have different gears. This is for all the beekeepers. It is our protective gear which helps us protect from bee sting in our vital organs. Ideally, if bee sting, people don't die because of bee sting. It is just because our respiratory tract is getting blocked, and we want to ensure that if we wear this protective gear, we are all safe and sound.
But Devendra, normally people won't have this at their home. So how should one protect themselves from bees in case there's a beehive, within their house complex? What do you do?
Absolutely. So I am really thankful that many people reach out to me with this question, and for setting the right credibility of what answer I'm going to give, I will show one of the biggest beehives we'd relocated. This is a beehive from Apis dorsata. Bees by nature are not dangerous. They are very busy doing their work, getting the nectar, because there is very limited flower season throughout the year, so that they can fill up the honey stock throughout the year. But if there is a hive around your place, do not burn it. Do not be scared. Everybody feels that, oh my god, there are bees around and will they sting? I just put this analogy most of the time. If there is one dog who bites, you don't kill or remove all the dogs across your place. Similarly, somewhere some bee had bitten or stung somebody, you don't have to remove the hive. In case you still are not comfortable coexisting with bees around, I have a lot of friends who have beehives around and they're happily living with them, because bees migrate, they keep moving from season to season with the flowers. But in case you're not comfortable with beehive around because you have a kid at home, a pet at home, then reach out to bee experts who can ethically move them without killing the whole hive or without burning the whole hive, because there are 40,000 bees in the hive, and killing 40,000 innocent lives doesn't justify just your fear to be removed. So that's my humble appeal. Do not be afraid of them. Try to live or coexist with them. If you can't, then get them ethically removed, where a expert will come, smoke them, relocate them, instead of burning or getting pest sprays which kill them.
Tell us a little bit about bees now. They're called the queen of biodiversity. Is that an established idea? And in the last few years, have you seen more recognition of this since you've, first embarked on this journey?
So I definitely feel that these tiny little steps are having impact in its own way, somewhere smaller, somewhere bigger. Till date, I have managed to train 400 plus farmers into beekeeping, reached more than 20,000 youths, converting them from bee fearing to bee loving. At the start of my session, there are these two things they know about, that we get honey from bees or they sting. But by the end of the session, they have a lot of information and stories coming out of it. And this is where each one who's heard about these bee stories now becomes a messenger about the importance of bees for us humans, for the biodiversity, and what all we can do in a little way to conserve the bees. I am really fascinated by a few things which I hear and see after these sessions, which give me that confidence that yes, whatever small or little way I am trying to do, or an individual is working, how it is spreading across. So one of the school teachers, she calls me and she said, I'd attended your session and you've always spoken about not to tell your kids to be afraid of bees, rather look at them in a way that you can learn from them. And she said, I knew this. I had taken my daughter to a farm visit, and there, when she was observing a sunflower, a big bee came over it, and instead of saying be away and be safe, she may sting, and be prepared and all of that, I said, look at that bee, beta. This is your granny who's come in the form of a bee to see, is my granddaughter enjoying this farm visit? And instead of being afraid of this bee, her daughter kept observing the bee do her pollination job on the flower and fly away. And this I wouldn't have imagined if she was not part of the session and she didn't come back and tell me.
Devendra, now we must get to the story of honey. Honey and bees are almost synonymous. That's the first thing that comes to your mind, like you said, either honey or bee sting. So educate a little bit about us about the different types of honey out there, organic, pure. There are experts who also warn against its consumption, that it's really not needed. How much should it be avoided to really benefit bee population? Tell us more.
In India, for honey standards, what is tested is a sugar syrup in it, or is there jaggery mixed in it? And those tests are done here, and those tests were passing. Surprisingly, there wasn't sugar, there wasn't jaggery, there was cheap corn syrup in these honey, bought from outside India for like 40 rupees per kilo and sold as 400 rupees or 600 rupees kilo in the form of honey. Mix it with a little honey and package it and sell it. And these big companies could easily say that we got this from the farmers, we are only packaging and we are not doing anything else, and we are meeting your testing standards. So it is very important to understand, where is your honey coming from? And do you really need to consume honey in first place? So where is your honey coming from is two types of them: processed honey and raw honey, or organic honey. Ideally, processed honey means the honey is heated so that there are no pathogens in it and no fungi and all of it, filtered, packed and ready to go on shelf. Whenever you heat honey, some of our old scriptures in Ayurveda says that if you heat honey or it is put into hot food, it becomes a visha rupi, it becomes poisonous, and all the enzymes or the nutrition value of the honey just decreases drastically. So first thing first, most of them don't recommend to consume processed honey. Then what is raw honey? It is only filtered and not heated, and it is extracted scientifically.
Tell us, we've also seen you convert bee conservation into an art. What's the story there?
So I have been talking about bees for very long, and I have had a lot of support from people around to spread this message. And I thought one of the tool to expand this is art. We used to do these paintings on the walls of Pune. The walls were quite dirty, and then we tried doing a lot of experiments on how to ensure we keep our own city public walls clean. So we tried doing some paintings, and I tried my hand in putting some bee related murals and Varli art on it, and it really worked and caught the eye. And that's where I thought that why not explore art to spread the awareness about bees, because everywhere I can't go and talk about, but wherever the art will, it will talk about the importance of bees and the conservation of bee. So what I did was I explored doing portraits on bee wax with 24 karat gold foil on it. This is the portrait of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji.
Oh wow, and we see several other portraits that you've made in the past. Lovely visuals there, some lovely work, Devendra. Let's move on to the most commonly asked question now. How to avoid a bee sting, how to treat one. You know, every time one ends up getting a bee sting, people are either rushing for a toothpaste or they're rushing for something they can rub it with. Tell us what you would recommend.
So first thing first, I think bees are really busy and they are not waiting to sting humans. Rather, they would want to not be seeing humans at all. But if you are around nature, you should not be carrying a lot of noise. I'm really surprised youngsters are carrying a lot of this noisy speakers with them whenever they're going out in nature. Please avoid that, irritates bees. Lot of perfume, you know, bees love the natural smell which flowers have, and our lot of chemical induced smell really irritates them. All of these factors call for a swamp of bees getting irritated and going to follow you, that this is the person who was around when we were disturbed. So we should avoid these things. Whenever bees start to swarm around, they have a very poor eyesight. They can't see things clearly and they can't see colors like we do. Okay, so the best thing to do is not run around, because none of us humans would be able to match the speed of the bee. Okay, so you will not, if there is a water body around, you would rather jump into it and try to avoid, because bees can't swim. But if you are expecting to run around, do not run around. Sit on the ground, or rather sleep on the ground with your nose and ears and eyes covered with your shirt or something. Okay, because this is the sensitive area where if bees sting and if it gets swollen, then our respiratory tract gets pressed and you will not be able to breathe. And for the swelling to come down, it will at least take 10 to 15 minutes. Therefore, this is the area we always protect whenever there is a bee swarm around. Okay, so do not run, sit, cover your vital organs, and few things which I've told, like no loud music, no perfume, no smoking. Try to respect, you're in others' territory, do not disturb them or throw stone and so on and so forth.
Devendra, we have to ask you, tell us some fun facts about these little critters now, these little bees.
I would also want to mention some amazing bee facts though.
Okay.
I was not really sure when did we all hear about the word called social distancing, but I heard it during the COVID times, one of the most challenging times in human era. But to my surprise, bees have been following social distancing for centuries. So if a bee is not well, she'll secrete pheromone and she'll let all other bees know that don't come close to me, you will fall sick, and so will be the whole hive. So she will ensure that she maintains the distance, Other bees will get her the right food she need to recover. Once she's recovered, she'll start getting into the hive closer to others, and she'll give her antigens to the queen. The queen is the only bee in the hive who can lay eggs and raise the new generation. So once she got the antigens of this bee who's recovered, the new generation the queen is going to lay is also going to be immune or develop the resistance required to fight this disease. Another thing which the bee will do is she will also give a second dose to the larvas which come out of these eggs, so that they get 2 doses of the antigens she has. It's almost like vaccination which we've taken during this time. And another surprise is they make something called as propolis from the raisin and other material which they get from huge trees. They make something called as propolis, which they sprinkle across the hive. And when a bee lands into the hive, she will wipe her legs on the propolis and get into the hive. And the propolis is antibacterial, antifungal, anti-cancerous. It's like a sanitizer they're using to ensure they keep the hive neat and clean.
Wow.
Because there is new generation in it and there are a lot of bees living in it. And this is the health standards which this little tiny insect is maintaining. So I think we have a lot to learn from the bees, and a lot of dependency on bees.
Definitely, and we've learned so much from your understanding about bees. Thank you for giving us this whole new perspective, Devendra.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to reach to all of you and spread the message to be happy and be healthy.
And be positive. He left that one out. But it is so lovely to have him here to just bring us that information. How interesting. They're
very
cleaning their
interesting.
legs before they're entering their house.
Never heard of.
Yeah. But I mean, we have more to learn from bees, basically. But let's head into a quick break. On the other side, we're not done yet. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To the other big story this hour, Prime Minister has arrived for the BJP Parliamentary Party meet, and this is the agenda for the meeting today is finalizing the candidate for the vice presidential elections that are slated, if elections happen, for the 9th of September. So the NDA is likely to finalize its candidates soon, but before that, the Bharatiya Janata Party has to appoint or come up with a nominee, and in that sense, the Prime Minister of India has reached. You can see JP Nadda, the BJP president, also there welcoming him. This meeting will have Home Minister Amit Shah. It will also have the other top leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and they'll sit together to decide who BJP's nominee for the upcoming vice presidential elections, if elections happen, that is, or will there be a consensus candidate? Will BJP come up with a candidate which will be acceptable to the opposition as well? In that case, elections may not be needed, but otherwise, who will be the Bharatiya Janata Party and NDA's face for the vice presidential elections? That's what will be decided, and those are the visuals that we have just got. Arun Dhanta is tracking the story. So, Arun, who all present in this meeting?
Well, see, Arunima, all parliamentary board members are present in this meeting, which includes BJP Chief JP Nadda, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah, Sudha Yadav, Satyanarayan Jatia, Union Minister Sarvananda Sonowal. All these 11 members are going to participate in this parliamentary board's meeting, and Prime Minister Modi has also, of course, arrived at the party headquarters. Remember, parliamentary board is the highest decision-making body of Bharatiya Janata Party, and therefore we are given to understand that this all crucial meeting is about the finalization of the name of the vice presidential candidate of the NDA. Of course, we've seen earlier, Arunima, that there was an important meeting of NDA's top leaders, which happened in fact, last week in the parliament. That was also about vice presidential candidate, in which the authority of choosing that candidate was given to JP Nadda and Prime Minister Modi. So in that regard, perhaps we will be seeing that all these members will be sitting.
All right, next we bring you a special section on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro. Money Control's premium healthcare, premium section on all that is going on in investing and business insights. Let's take a look first at one sector in particular. GIF Nifty indicates a strong opening for Indian stock markets. GST rationalization hints by the Prime Minister can help boost market sentiments. Asian markets are trading marginally higher in morning trade. Gold futures are trading higher, while crude oil futures are flat.
And on to a sector in particular after a muted performance in 2024 and a slow start to 2025, the medium and heavy commercial vehicles industry is showing signs of recovery. The momentum is expected to strengthen, aided by higher government spending, favorable monsoons and rising consumption demand. All these factors should drive growth across different segments of commercial vehicles. So don't forget to log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's commercial vehicle sector and other actionable insights on markets. It is the premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need. Brought to you by Money Control. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of the Breakfast Club. The week's just started, so there's lots more that we will cover for you through the next week. It was a slow and a serious start this Monday, but we'll make up for the fun as well.
Yeah, and we're hoping some of those B facts stay with you.
Yeah.
Look into Devendra, all the work that he's done, but also just the incredible work a lot of people like him are doing to conserve our environment, our resources. Right now we're heading into an end of our show, but tomorrow and through the rest of the week we continue to bring you more right here on The Breakfast Club.
Brought to you by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To the other big story this hour, Prime Minister has arrived for the BJP Parliamentary Party meet, and this is the agenda for the meeting today is finalizing the candidate for the vice presidential elections that are slated, if elections happen, for the 9th of September. So the NDA is likely to finalize its candidates soon, but before that, the Bharatiya Janata Party has to appoint or come up with a nominee, and in that sense, the Prime Minister of India has reached. You can see JP Nadda, the BJP president, also there welcoming him. This meeting will have Home Minister Amit Shah. It will also have the other top leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and they'll sit together to decide who BJP's nominee for the upcoming vice presidential elections, if elections happen, that is, or will there be a consensus candidate? Will BJP come up with a candidate which will be acceptable to the opposition as well? In that case, elections may not be needed, but otherwise, who will be the Bharatiya Janata Party and NDA's face for the vice presidential elections? That's what will be decided, and those are the visuals that we have just got. Arun Dhanta is tracking the story. So, Arun, who all present in this meeting?
Well, see, Arunima, all parliamentary board members are present in this meeting, which includes BJP Chief JP Nadda, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah, Sudha Yadav, Satyanarayan Jatia, Union Minister Sarvananda Sonowal. All these 11 members are going to participate in this parliamentary board's meeting, and Prime Minister Modi has also, of course, arrived at the party headquarters. Remember, parliamentary board is the highest decision-making body of Bharatiya Janata Party, and therefore we are given to understand that this all crucial meeting is about the finalization of the name of the vice presidential candidate of the NDA. Of course, we've seen earlier, Arunima, that there was an important meeting of NDA's top leaders, which happened in fact, last week in the parliament. That was also about vice presidential candidate, in which the authority of choosing that candidate was given to JP Nadda and Prime Minister Modi. So in that regard, perhaps we will be seeing that all these members will be sitting and discussing that who's going to be the vice presidential candidate. And then, of course, you will see it will be, it will be told to the NDA allies, the likes of JDU and TDP. And we are also being told by our sources that there could be a joint press briefing of the NDA leadership about the announcement of this. And in fact, Prime Minister Modi, when he arrived at party headquarters, he in fact spoke to the journalists here also, where he asked the journalist about how did they celebrate their Janmashtami, and also said, Jai Shri Ram. So Prime Minister Modi, of course, has come here at the party headquarters. We will, of course, not be expecting anything to come out today. But of course, the decision will be taken, and probably in a joint press conference, then you will see that name will be announced, because on 21st, we're given to understand that all the NDA leaders, including Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Ministers, will be in Delhi alongside with that candidate when they will have, nominee or filing that nomination here in Delhi for the all-crucial vice presidential election.
Right, but any speculations, Arun, about who the possible...
Hello, you are watching the breaking news show right here on CNN News 18. My name is Toya Singh, and we're going to walk you through all of the country's top breaking news stories in the next 1 hour. Very quickly first though, let's take a look at all of the headlines. The Election Commission slamming the vote theft allegations made in Bihar by Rahul Gandhi as an insult to India's constitution. This was during a press conference yesterday. They stated that when they asked Rahul Gandhi for evidence, no proof was provided. The Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar has announced that a decision on conducting the SIR, that's the Special Intensive Revision exercise in West Bengal and other states, will also be taken very soon. And remember, Chinese FM Wang Yi is in India for 2 days, starting today for talks. India and China are expected to discuss new confidence-building measures for durable peace and tranquility. And C.P. Radhakrishnan, the governor of Maharashtra, announced as the NDA candidate for the vice presidential polls. Remember, they have the majority. He's likely to become the next vice president. Elections to pick the new VP will be held on September 9th. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin mounts a scathing attack on the Tamil Nadu governor R.N. Ravi once again. Now, he has accused him of doing, quote, cheap politics. He said and charged him with spreading, quote, canards against the ruling DMK. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will not be alone today when he meets and sits down with the US President. Right from Macron to Meloni, you have European leaders joining Zelensky for this meet. And the US President has put the onus on the Ukrainian President to end the Russia-Ukraine war, saying that President Zelensky can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. All right, our first story. The row over the SIR exercise in Bihar is escalating. Almost a week after Rahul Gandhi's allegations of vote chori, the Election Commission has hit back, calling such words an insult to the Constitution. Speaking at a press conference, the CEC, that's the Chief Election Commissioner, Ganesh Kumar, said that the EC is being used as a launchpad to target voters for political motives and stressed that the poll body treats all parties equally. Congress responded on X, calling the EC briefing scripted, while the BJP called it a huge loss for Congress and its bogey. The EC stands firm, saying it will not step back from its constitutional responsibility. Rahul Gandhi, in turn, hit back at the EC, claiming that in 2023 a law was made to protect the EC from any action. He alleged that the Prime Minister and Amit Shah brought this law to enable them to steal votes together. Take a look at different reactions.
वोट चोरी जैसे गलत शब्दों का इस्तेमाल करके जनता को गुमराह करने का असफल प्रयास किया जाए तो यह भारत के संविधान का अपमान नहीं तो और क्या है। भारत के संविधान के अनुसार सिर्फ भारत का नागरिक ही एमएलए और एमपी का चुनाव कर सकता है। किसी और को यह अधिकार, किसी और देश के नागरिक को यह अधिकार प्राप्त नहीं है। अगर ऐसे लोगों ने इन्यूमरेशन फॉर्म भरा है तो एसआईआर की प्रक्रिया में अपनी पात्रता सिद्ध करने के लिए कुछ दस्तावेज भी मांगे गए, जिनकी गहन जांच 30 सितंबर तक होनी है। जहां तक वेस्ट बंगाल के एसआईआर की तारीख की बात है, हम तीनों कमिश्नर्स एक उचित समय देखकर उसका निर्णय लेंगे कि कब वेस्ट बंगाल में होना है या देश के अन्य राज्यों में कब होना है। उसकी तारीखों का ऐलान आने वाले समय में उचित समय पर किया जाएगा।
प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस होता है, मैं उनसे पूछना चाहता हूं, आपने कानून बनाया, आपने सीसीटीवी का कानून बनाया, फिर आपने उस कानून को बदला क्यों? सरकार ने क्यों बदला? मैं एक और सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं, भाइयों और बहनों, आप जानते हो कि इलेक्शन कमिश्नर पर कोई भी केस नहीं किया जा सकता है। आप जानते हो कि हिंदुस्तान का कोई भी कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट, सुप्रीम कोर्ट उन पर केस नहीं कर सकता है। आप जानते हो ये कानून कब बना? जानते हो 2023 में ये कानून बना। ये कानून 2023 में क्यों बना? क्योंकि नरेंद्र मोदी और अमित शाह ये चाहते हैं कि इलेक्शन कमीशन के खिलाफ कोई कार्रवाई नहीं कर पाए, क्योंकि इलेक्शन कमीशन उनकी मदद कर रहा है, उनके साथ वोट चोरी कर रहा है। और हमने इंडिया गठबंधन के बिहार के नेताओं ने मन बना लिया है कि बिहार में हम वोट चोरी नहीं होने देंगे। सवाल नहीं उठता, वोट चोरी नहीं होने देंगे।
Okay, let's go over to our colleagues to get us more context on this entire story. Arunima and Pallavi have both been bringing us updates around this story. We'll go over first to Arunima to understand more. Arunima, the EC's press conference yesterday and how they responded to each of the allegations that Gandhi has made in the last few weeks. How did you see it? Any surprises for you? Just bring us your analysis first.
See, first and foremost, you don't usually see Election Commission of India do a press conference when they are not announcing poll dates. Usually, that's when the press conferences are called. So it was a rare occasion when the CEC and the two election commissioners decided to do a press briefing to set the record straight as far as allegations by opposition is concerned. Second, the way, CEC Ganesh Kumar framed the questions of vote chori. He said this is an affront on constitution. He said if you can't provide that affidavit, you have to apologize in 7 days. So if Rahul Gandhi led opposition were hoping to push the election commission on the back foot because by their allegations, that was not evident yesterday. Also, the question about why you insisting on an oath or an affidavit from Rahul Gandhi and not applying the same yardstick to Anurag Thakur, who also made similar charges of voter discrepancies in the voter list in Wayanad, in Raebareli, also in Diamond Harbour, Abhishek Banerjee's constituency. Ganesh Kumar, CEC, said that EC follows a graded response. So he tried to address a few of the questions that have been raised by the opposition. Some were left unanswered. For example, a crucial question was that out of the 7 crore plus enumeration form that have been received so far, how many have come with the documents? Because the ground reports seem to suggest that with a fortnight to go, people in Bihar are still struggling to get the required documents together. CEC did not answer that question, and he also insisted that if you cannot back up the claim that you are making, then under the rule of law, if you are not a voter of that particular constituency, Rahul Gandhi is not a voter of Karnataka. So if he is making a charge about Karnataka and he is not a voter there, he has no other option under the rule book but to come on oath and submit that affidavit. So EC is also standing its ground, not giving in to the kind of pressure that the opposition is generating. Of course, Jairam Ramesh has interpreted as intimidating.
Okay, Arima, stay with us. Submit that affidavit, what the EC says to Rahul Gandhi. Let's go over now to our colleague Pallavi to understand more around Rahul Gandhi and his actions in the next few days. Our colleague Aman also joining us. Pallavi, if we could just come over to you to ask you, Rahul Gandhi, of course, kicking off the Vota Adhikar Yatra, 16 days, 1,300 kilometers. Tell us about that. Tell us about the plan ahead, but also tell us, submitting the affidavit, that key demand, are we going to see the Congress leader perhaps do so or not?
Well, he answered all those questions at the rally when he was speaking at the Voter Adhikar Yatra. In fact, even as we speak, Toya, in a short while from now, day 2 of the Yatra is going to be flagged off by Rahul Gandhi, completely undaunted, unfazed. And in fact, within the Congress circles, there's a sense of euphoria because they feel triumphant about the fact that the Election Commission was forced by them to come out with those clarifications, which of course the Congress has outrightly rejected as not being much of a clarification. Now, as far as the affidavit or taking an oath is concerned, we had asked this question of him inside the parliament, but he made it very clear yesterday also that why should I go to an election commission? Why should I give them an affidavit when I know the EC is going to stand up and EC is going to be a judge of itself? And second, the election commission is essentially his master's voice, reflecting what the BJP has to say. What needs to be done is, one, an acknowledgement of guilt. The EC must accept the fact that the Lok Sabha elections were rigged. Action should be taken against the then CEC Rajiv Kumar, and the second of course is the SIR exercise must be stopped as soon as possible. Immediate stoppage, actually, not even ASAP, it is immediate stoppage of the SIR. So you're not going to see the Congress leaders backtracking. I think it's going to be a similar day inside the parliament today. Multiple notices already being given, Toya, by the Congress leaders, Renuka Chaudhary being one of them. They are rejecting that press conference of the Election Commission, and in the days to come, there are 16-day Yatra by Rahul Gandhi culminating in that big rally in Patna on the 1st of September. In the days to come, I think the attack on the Election Commission is going to get fiercer and fiercer because even the Congress is trying to build up a narrative that the EC, one, was saying what was dictated to them by the BJP at that press conference, and second, they have left many unanswered questions.
Okay, Pallavi, thank you. You've touched on it. Let's go over to our colleague Aman to understand more. Aman, in the parliament, we watched how this conversation, though the opposition asked for it again and again in the last few days, the government has said this is not the right avenue. How is the government waiting, watching, taking notes as all of this takes place?
Well, clearly, Toya, see, the entire parliament session, the earlier 3 weeks that we were in parliament have been totally been whitewashed by the protests of the opposition for a discussion on the SIR issue. The opposition has been, united on this particular issue, perhaps the first issue which has brought together the entire opposition since the Lok Sabha results. You have TMC, you have the DMK, you have Samajwadi Party, and of course Congress leading the charge along with the left parties against the SIR. That said, I think the government has been very clear since the start that Election Commission's functioning cannot be discussed on the floor of the House. There is a ruling by a former speaker, Balram Jakhar, who was also a congressman, that Election Commission's functioning is something which is not in the purview of the House because it's a constitutional body. Only electoral reforms can be discussed, and SIR essentially, the government says, comes under the functioning of the Election Commission parameter. That said, I think the government is also